call the meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. We have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Jim Bisbee.
Here.
Trip Ure.
Here.
Ruth Cox.
Present.
Jim Morrison.
Here.
Gregory Rush.
Here.
Candace Sullivan.
Present.
Tim Thompson.
Here.
Mark Buckner.
Here.
And Molly Bales.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Adjustments to the agenda, I have two, and that is that the applications have been withdrawn for items 4C and 4D, 100 Middle and 710 New Street. I'd like to entertain a motion, we approve the agenda with the exception of those items.
So approved first. Approved.
Is there a second? Moved and second, we approve the agenda with the exceptions of 4C and 4D. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, we have the consent agenda next, and I assume all of those items have been,
Okay, hold on one second.
can you hear back there? Oh, no TV, huh?
Okay. Well, we're only on number 2. Do you want it bigger? Those were just the written decisions. Yep, sorry. It's brand new in the agenda, so it's understandable. So we had a motion by Gregory Rush and a second by Ruth Cox, correct?
That was the adjustments to the agenda.
And it was unanimous.
Now, assuming everybody's had an opportunity to review the approval and the written decisions, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, state aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Okay.
Okay.
I have a brief introduction. Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It's responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state statutes, city ordinances, New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds quasi-judicial hearings on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who received notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes and dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. And likewise, the commissioners will refrain from stating personal opinions, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during the hearing. And our decisions are based on the application and testimony and evidence at the hearing that directly relate to the historic guidelines. Okay. Can we swear in our presenters?
Yes. Anyone who wishes to speak this evening, please come forward, raise your right hand. Please swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge. And just print your name and your address.
Okay, the first item we have is 305 North Avenue. I don't see a person here representing that.
No, that's correct. They're not ready,
Okay.
so they will be ready at the design review meeting, however.
Okay, is this one running close to the timeline in terms of the 6
We
months?
need to act in June.
We need to act in June, not tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
And
They understand that?
We're going to discuss with them, staff will discuss with them whether or not they're interested in extending the deadline.
Okay. All right.
So do we continue this then?
That would be the appropriate.
Okay. Okay, so we'll need a motion to continue 305 North Avenue to the June meeting, which is on
June
21st.
21.
June 21, for the reason of non-preparedness of the applicant,
Mr.
At 5:30 in
at 5:30 in the evening, afternoon,
this,
in this here courtroom.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we continue this meeting till June 21st, which is our regular meeting at 5:30 City Hall Conference Room, because we do not yet have the information on the redevelopment plan in order to make a decision.
second?
Wait,
That's to continue the application for 305 North Avenue?
Yeah.
305 North Avenue, yes.
no, the application, you said meeting.
Okay. I'd like to continue the application for 305 North Avenue at the regular meeting on June 21st at 5:30 City Hall Conference Room. Justification is that we do not yet have the redevelopment plan for this particular application, since this is a demolition and redevelopment project. Is that?
Moved to second?
Second, I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded, we continue 305 North Avenue. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that one's continued. Then we're ready for 521 Hancock Street.
All right. This will take some paper. Okay. This is the application for 521 Hancock Street. The application is by Lucian Vaughn of Tar Heel Associates for the property owners Matt and Jessica Connard. And the responses are all attached. Then we have appropriate signature and date on the application, and this is the document which authorizes Mr. Vaughn to represent the owners. And it is duly notarized. Okay, so this gives you, this images of the front of the house, not really directly relevant to this project. And this is the core cookhouse. Now for the side, the right side, or the east side, let's see, that's the north side. North side. Yep. And we see it here obliquely with the fencing, and then from the street straight on, this is still the right side. Particular note is at the rear of the house is a two-story screen, two screened-in porches stacked on top of each other. So the applicants also provided excerpts from the Sandbeck book, which are shown here, and this is actually a photo of where it used to, the location where it used to be before it was moved to its current location. So here's the attached documentation about the description of the work. And those are the elements to remain, and these are the elements to be relocated, some disposed, some salvaged. List of materials include exterior windows, exterior door siding, band fascia soffit casings and frieze, the side stoop framing, side stoop landing, side stoop railings and posts, and side stoop foundation screen. Side stoop metal roofing, shutters, and storm windows. So they've also included all of the guidelines they found to be relevant to this. We'll just skip over that because we'll go into that later. Then now we have more photographs, more directly showing the actual area of the project. So again, the two-story screened-in porches. And in this particular project, the proposal is to enclose, so basically remove the screens and the handrails and enclose both of those spaces as interior spaces. So front on rear view, and then a detail of the corner showing the flooring and the posts and the foundation. And again, the same corner, slightly different angle. And then looking on the right is along the back side of the entire porch structure, ground level. Then this on the left is the other side of the building, so what's called the left side or south side, and the porches are on the left. Note there is a doorway on this side. That doorway is to be closed in as part of the enclosure, and a new doorway installed on the opposite side. Can you all hear me with noise in the background? Okay, so then this is the south side, a portion of the house there, showing some of the character of that side, and then a more close-up view of the stairway coming out of the back porch. Again, a couple more views of that. The photo on the left, though, does include an image of the windows that are on the west elevation that are to remain. Then we have some views inside the porch, which has this door on the first level, and then looking to the left, there is a small window that's over the kitchen sink. And then this is the door from the inside and the sink window from the inside. And then the second floor also has a door, of course, out to the porch, and then two sets of windows. One is a triple, which is on the right, and then a single on the left. All right. Whew. That does it for all the photos. Then this is a site plan view. So Hancock Street is, well, I guess we'll start out first. So showing you the entire site with Hancock Street on the right and Johnson Street on the top. All the work is being done here on the left and northwestern side of the house. And let's see. And staff has provided an aerial view of that same location, the same property, in case we want to reference that. And let's see, so now the house has been turned 90 degrees for drawing purposes. And so on the left is the existing, shows a floor plan of the existing screen porch on the first floor at the top here, and then the rest of this is interior work, with the exception of removing an exterior wall, which includes then that the one doorway and the kitchen window, for example. And then this is the new plan where the porch is enclosed, and it shows a pair of, so two pairs of windows at the top for the west side, and then another window on the north side, and a new door and stoop on the north side. Let's go down, flip this over. Go down. So the next one should be the second floor. Same thing on the second floor. Less of the wall is removed, and this is the existing screened porch. With the stairs are just shown as something that shows up below on the first floor. That's not a second set of stairs. And then on this one, there also
enclosing that screened-in porch for a new bedroom, and there are the equivalent windows on the back, on the west, a window on the north, and a window on the south. And new doors are being cut through the existing exterior wall. So let's move down. Okay, so this is now a series of elevations. This is the front of the house. So there are no changes to the front of the house. Make it a little bit smaller so we can get the whole thing. Especially for the next ones. All right. And then, okay, so this is then the right side or the north side. And we see the existing screen porch here on the right. Then the next image is, below that is the change. So enclosing that, adding the windows on the second and the first floor, the door and the stoop. The roof itself does not change, so we'll go back up and show you that again. The roof is this trapezoidal shape in this view. Oops, and it is on the new elevation as well. So the roof does not change. So again, from the back, here's the existing, and then the proposed. And here you can see, in addition to the 4 pairs of windows, you can see the side-on view of the stoop roof and the stoop itself. And you can also see that one window that I mentioned on that's existing, that you could see in the photo with the the old stairway, that it is still there and remains the same. I'll show that to you up here. There's the stairway, and that was that double window that was in the one photograph. So no change to that. And then finally, the left side or south elevation is shown here with the current screen door out the porch on the left, and then all of the windows and shutters and main entrance and everything shown here as well. And then the change is the enclosure here with the one window at the top. And of course the stairway is gone. Okay. And then we have our zoning and inspection report here, which indicates that the land use administrator, zoning administrator has indicated that it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector has indicated that it will require a building permit. And then we are ready with our recommendations.
Would you like to comment?
Operations on Tar Heel Associates. I would just comment on the windows. That was a subject that came up at design review. It just didn't look like they were.
Okay, you will need to speak up a lot more because we have a lot of noise going on in the background.
Is that one on? It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Going to address the window issue that we talked about at design review relative to how it shows up on the elevations, the left elevation and again on the right elevation. If we can go to that.
Here's the left elevation.
Yep. So the new window that we're putting in, we're going to utilize the existing porch beam all the way around. In fact, that will be the header, and that will in fact then be as high as that window can be raised. So we looked into that to see if we could keep that at par as far as the heights of the window. And then the same thing applies to the other elevation, which would be the right or the north elevation. That window is pushed up as high as we can push it. without reconstructing, taking out that beam. That was my only comment.
Okay.
Any questions?
So those aren't my people.
Those are not his people.
We're not trying to tell you that you're done before you're done, but.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else?
Nothing to me.
Okay.
Is this the point where I ask, are there any public inputs on this?
Yeah, I believe so. You should have your checklist there.
I do, but it doesn't say on it. Any members of the public would like to, who have standing, would like to comment on this project? Hearing none. Your recommendations? I'm sorry?
Any state or federal organizations?
I can't hear you.
Any state or federal organizations that might want to comment?
Oh, any state or federal organizations like to comment? Hearing none. We're ready.
Okay, all right. So here's our recommendation. For 521 Hancock Street, the applicants Matt and Jessica Conard and Lucian Vaughn. This is the Core Cookhouse, built circa 1790. 1822 major remodel and addition, 1850 again, and then 1981 it was moved to this location. So this is a contributing structure in the National Register Historic District, and the National Register inventory description from 2003 indicates it was moved from 411 to 415 Craven Street in 1981. It is 2.5 stories, L plan, 4 bays wide, gable and hip roofs, and interior chimneys. The sandbag description from 1988, the relevant passages are, it was subsequently enlarged in circa 1850 with a 2-story side addition and a handsome front porch. My comment is this is apparently the addition on the left or south side of the house, since it is the only L showing in the 1888 Sanborn map, which is the illustration on the right. Sanborn continues, its exterior is simply finished with beaded weatherboarding, a molded box cornice with diminutive returns, and 6/6 sash in all window openings. So for 521 Hancock Street, the proposal is to include fully enclosing the lower and upper rear screen porches in the primary and secondary AVCs. So staff submits the following historic guidelines as appropriate to this application. For utilities, 2.3.1, design principles 3.1.1 and 2, for modifications 3.2.1 and 2, for walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.1, 2, 3, and 4, for windows, doors, and openings 4.3.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, for entrances 4.4.4, for roofs 4.5.1 and 4, for wood 5.2.1, 5.2.2, for paint 5.4.2, 3, and 4. The statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the project is modifications to a contributing structure within the primary and secondary AVCs. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include fully enclosing the lower and upper rear screen porches in the primary and secondary AVCs.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Yep, okay. Questions, comments?
A couple things. There's no historic fabric noted in Sandbeck's book that's being modified. There's no mention of the back porches. So the assumption is, it's contemporary construction. All proposed modifications seem to be within the envelope of these contemporary additions from sometime in the 80s. And since the porches are not primary porches, front porches, this seems to comply with the guidelines for entrances.
I think it's important, too, that they're salvaging what fabric might be taken out or reusing windows in another location. And all the materials, wood, windows are wood, no issues at all.
Other comments or thoughts, questions?
So the porch seems not to be part of the original building, is that right?
That's,
It's not mentioned in Sandbeck's narrative.
What is the picture here that we have on the Sunborn map?
That's 1888.
And is there the back porch on it?
Yeah, so that back, well, actually it has an enclosed two-story addition. The porch is shown as dashed lines.
Oh, it even shows a chimney, I guess, right? The enclosure in the back is the
Shows
round.
what?
It shows a chimney, like the small circle in the far left corner. What is that?
That's a zero that represents the roofing type.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Thank you.
shingle roofing, well, I forget what that means. It's the roof, indicates the roofing type. The two indicates the number of stories. It does show there had been a kitchen. And this is at the old location in 1888, so almost 100 years prior to its move.
So it had a similar addition in the past, obviously.
Right, and you could probably see that in the elevations as well. I believe it was, that addition was retained. Let's see, go to the side view. Right, elevation. You can see this, the main roof is probably the original building, and then this is the first addition that we're talking about now, I would believe. And then let's go up one more so you can see that even more clearly. And then the screened porches addition is yet another addition. And so it's almost like evolution of growth of the building.
So shouldn't we, I'm not sure about that, but is it a modification or are we talking about an addition?
it's a modification to the existing addition. Is that your question?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm asking which guidelines we refer to, either modifications or additions.
Yeah, so, my interpretation would be that the existing double set of porches is already an addition.
And it's just going to be enclosed.
Yes.
Yep.
And there's no historic fabric in the part that's being removed for the porch, per se.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so far.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 521 Hancock Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Utilities, 2.3.1, design principles, 3.1.1 and 2, modifications, 3.2.1 and 2, walls, trim and ornamentation, 4.2.1, 2, 3, and 4. Windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Entrances, 4.4.4. Roofs, 4.5.1 and 4. Wood, 5.2.1 and 2. Paint, 5.4.2, 3, and 4. The findings of fact based on the information contained in the application. The structure is a contributing structure in the tight weave development pattern. The project is a modification to a contributing structure within the primary and secondary AVC. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building inspector have reviewed this project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the application for 521 Hancock Street. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Need a motion to issue the COA.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we issue a COA for 521 Hancock Street. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that's approved. Good job, Lucien. .302 Avenue A.
All right, I'll enlarge this one a little bit first. Okay, so this is the application for 302 Avenue A. Property owners Matthew and Melissa Halton are the applicants. So they've provided the information here in these boxes here and checked off all the appropriate information and the signature and the date that's provided. Okay, so first they provided a page with a collection of photographs of the house. So let's see. Starting with the rear of the home. So the proposal is to add a garage to the rear yard. So here is images of the house, the rear of the house, upper left, the side, North Craven Street side on the upper right. Then the middle left is the rear of the house and the west side of the house. The rear is the north side. And then we have some images of the front of the house here on the left and right. And then a historic photograph on the left and another straight-on view of the front of the house on the right. And the historic photograph indicates it is the A.M. Baker House, built circa 1897. This is in the Riverside Historic District. And they've also provided some Sanborn map excerpts as well, showing in two cases, two different arrangements of accessory buildings. One is a small square and the other one is two narrow rectangles. If we want, I can zoom in on those, but then the upper right photograph does show the existing metal shed, and they've dashed in white lines here on the left and on the right the approximate location of the property lines. And I guess the backyard, for example. So here is an aerial view where it shows the metal shed and two of the property lines plus, or three of the property lines plus a line across the back of the house. So they're proposing, again, some photographs of the metal shed from the street. It is a little hard to see behind the obstructions, let's just say. Also to note is that the yard does still have two tire tracks in the grass. Two strips in the backyard leading over to the metal shed as a driveway from some time in the past. So this is the proposal, is to locate the new shed in this blue square area and with an entrance from North Craven Street. This is for garage. I'm sorry, did I say it was a shed addition? No.
You said it was.
Yeah, shed. Sorry, garage. Too many sheds. All right, so here is elevations of the proposed garage. So on the left, or on the right, is the front of the garage, which would be facing North Craven Street. facing towards the east. And then this is then the northwest side elevation on the left. That's the one that would be facing the neighbor to the northwest. Yes. Then the rear of the garage with one window. And then the south side of the garage with the door for entry and 2 more windows. So they also provided examples of similar garages. These are off of East Front Street. This one is off of Avenue C in Riverside. And they also provided a list of all the guidelines. Which we'll go over also again. And then the zoning and inspections report. The zoning administrators indicated that it does meet the requirements of the land use ordinance, but commented that the accessory building must be a minimum of 3 feet off the side and rear property lines. And the proposed chief building inspector indicated that it will require a building permit. Now that reminds me, I forgot to mention on the plans, they did indicate that the building would be located 3 to 5 feet away from the 2 property lines. Where is that? Right here. So 3 to 5 feet from the property line, 23 to 25 feet from the street property line, and 17 to 19 feet from the back of the home, since accessory buildings are required to be at least 8 feet away from the primary structure. All right, sorry about that. And then we're ready with our recommendations.
Mr. Halton, did you want to comment on anything?
Sure, the only thing I had was the design review had asked, or there was a discussion about the window size above the garage door at the peak. Matt, if you go to the first slide, so the comparison was against the 2 upper windows on the North Craven side. Those windows measured out at 55 inches from bottom to top. And then on the rear elevation picture, the window there at the peak on the rear of the home is 48 inches. So somewhere, depending on the appropriate scale and size, between those 2, or one or the other, is what would be proposed above the garage door, and then on the same size on the back. We'd also like to confirm that the garage door is wood. That was a question previously. And then just a personal comment that, I can only imagine what Mr. Shelley shows up to an inbox every day, having seen some of the iterations of what comes to this body, but just the combination of the patience and the expertise in helping the applicants navigate the process, just acknowledging him publicly, because I don't think it happens often enough, but I appreciate everything that you've done, and the board as well, with the patience and a non-expert navigating through the process. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any members of the public notified proponents or opponents of the project wish to speak? Seeing none. Any members of the government would like to speak? Seeing none. Okay, we're ready for your recommendation.
Can I just ask you to speak a little louder into the microphone, because there's a lot of background noise, and I know listening to the tapes afterwards, it is hard enough to hear, I'm sure.
Okay.
There we go. And please remind that for everybody.
All right.
All right, page down.
The best way to burn fat and get shredded is not keto, paleo,
No, not that.
carnivore, it's not vegan, and it's definitely not super intense exercises like this. That ain't how you lose weight. Cardio burns fat, right? No.
It's all right.
We didn't mean that.
Was that loud enough?
It just went crazy.
We got all that. Okay. All right, so here are the recommendations for this application for 302 Avenue A for Matthew and Melissa Halton. This is, the historic property name is A.M. Baker House, built circa 1897. is a contributing structure in the Riverside Historic District, the National Register Historic District, and the National Register indicates it, describes it as follows in their 1988 version or assessment. The 1.5-story frame house with a high-hipped roof of standing seam, tin, and 1-story projecting bays on the side elevations. An engaged 1-story porch with slender classical columns on brick piers and square in section beaded balusters spans the 2-bay facade where the entrance is recessed and continues along the northeast elevation. The pedimented projecting bay on that elevation is semi-hexagonal and has wood shingle siding in the gable end. The most striking feature of the house is the large gable roof dormer centered above the facade. Square in section wooden posts support the arched shingle-sided gable end, and a square in section baluster railing spans a balcony serving an upper floor entrance. Surviving original windows are 1/1 sash, and the tall brick chimneys with corbels, I think is probably the way it should have been, are in interior locations. The sand deck description, the only relevant portion of that, that it indicates in a paragraph that was in the narrative and not listed specifically for this, is it's Queen Anne style and it's a picturesque cottage. So whether or not those are relevant to you, those passages. 302 Avenue A, the project is to include removal of a metal shed and construction of a new garage in the secondary and tertiary AVCs. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For utilities, 2.3.1, 2, and 3. For fences and garden walls, 2.5.6. For accessory structures, 2.6.1 and 2. For parking, 2.7.1, 2, 1 and 2. Design principles, 3.1.1, 2, 4, and 5. For walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4 and 5. For windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.2. For paint, 5.4.2, 3, and 4. And for contemporary materials, 5.5.6. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application in staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the project is an accessory structure within the tertiary AVC and secondary AVC. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. Staff recommends the commission approve this application to include the removal of a metal shed and construction of a new garage in the secondary and tertiary AVCs. That concludes our report.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
This is a house in Riverside that's important architecturally. I would say it's important to all the historic districts. It's lived a hard life, and Matt and Melissa have done a magnificent job bringing this house back to life and saving it from prevention of demolition by neglect. The proposed accessory structure, one of the things that we're looking for there is it's secondary to the primary structure in mass, scale, and proportion. That's certainly the case here. The design components complement the house as well as other surrounding historic properties. It's good to see the examples of other contemporary secondary structures. What's proposed reflects the mass, scale, and proportion of other contemporary structures that we see in the historic districts.
I agree with Mr. Thompson. It fits the house really good.
So we also had a pretty good discussion during design review and all the appropriate elements in terms of corner boards and weather boards, eaves, things of that nature are part of the design. And thank you for commending us and Matt, but we want to commend you because I don't know if my colleagues know or the public knows, but Matt came to about 3 or 4 meetings to study us before he put his application together. So it wasn't all Matt. Well, it wasn't all our Matt. It was also applicant Matt as well, who you put together a very good application.
if we had an award for the most complete application, I think you'd be there. Other questions or comments?
No, just thank you, Colonel, for the homework. Appreciate it.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we find the application for certificate of appropriateness for 302 Avenue A to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following guidelines and findings of facts. The guidelines, utilities, 2.3.1, 2.3.2, 2.3.3, fences and garden walls, 2.5.6, accessory structures, 2.6.1 and 2.6.2, parking, 2.7.1 and 2.7.2, design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.4, 3.1.5, walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4, 4.2.5, windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.2, paint, 5.4.2, 5.4.3, 5.4.4, contemporary materials, 5.5.6, findings of fact, the structure is a contributing structure in the tight weed development pattern of the historic district. Project is an accessory structure within a tertiary AVC. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the COA. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Need a motion to issue a COA?
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we issue the COA. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, issue the COA. Thank you, sir.
Good to go.
Okay, old business, we have none. Are there general public comments? I see none. New business, we've been requested by a member of the public to talk about setbacks, particularly in a flood hazard area in relationship to 1719 East Front Street. And we've agreed to do that. We will not be taking any position on it. We will be providing opinions, and the opinions are not up for debate. They're opinions. So I'll start with mine. My thought starts with, we're going to obey the rules for land use. We're going to obey the rules for land use as stated by the aldermen and other governmental bodies in New Bern. We won't knowingly enact anything that's in opposition to the rules. Two, I recognize that over time and events, there may be rules that need to change. And an example would be adapting to flood requirements. However, having said that, rules may or may not be changed. And it's up to those who design and build to adapt if there are not rule changes. It's a new situation, and that's my thoughts on the subject. Anyone else?
Well, I think we talked at length at design review that there is an appeal process. And you have every right to that appeal process to the Board of Adjustment. I believe you're scheduled this month.
We are scheduled this month, and so you're unwilling to talk about what we have proposed in terms of the HPC guidelines, just looking at it in terms of placement, you're unwilling to talk about it because of the land use ordinance. Is that what you're saying? We're looking for support going to Board of Adjustment for a variance, and you understand that. We've talked at length about the flood elevation changing and different things.
And that's, I've stated my opinion on that subject.
Okay.
That's up to someone else to make a change.
I support what you're doing if the planning and zoning pass it. I think there's a precedent of the house next door, its setbacks. So that, to me, that would make sense that you would follow the same setbacks. And since the elevations are higher, the steps are higher, the ratios are different, it doesn't make sense to have your first step right on the sidewalk. So I do support a change, but you have to go through the right steps to get there. But I personally support it.
And Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarity, I don't think, I have not found any authority either in the general statutes or our code of ordinances that would allow this body to make a recommendation or offer support to another citizen board or commission.
Yeah, I think I stated that at the outset. We're not going to take a position.
Yes,
There may be individual opinions, but we're not going to, as a board, take a position.
that was my understanding on that issue too.
I think if I could give some advice, I would make your case based on context, because this is a corner lot.
Mhm.
It's not a single lot between two other houses. It's deep enough to accommodate any kind of ordinance change.
Yeah.
And if you don't put it into context, I think that would be leaving an important fact on the table. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yes. I absolutely understand, and that's part of it as well.
And I think we approved the house as it was designed, and then whether it sits X, Y, or Z feet back, that's really not in our hands. But the design of the house was fine.
Well, placement is in your guidelines, but
Placement, but,
we've been down that path, right?
Okay. Other thoughts or comments? Okay, you have our opinions.
I guess I would like, how do we request that the ordinance be changed? I mean, is that something that you all are willing to entertain?
There are some rules set out in our code of ordinances that indicate how text amendments can come forward. The Board of Aldermen can take it upon themselves to ask for or to initiate a text amendment. A board, such as the Planning and Zoning Board, for example, can recommend changes to the land use ordinance, or citizens can make those recommendations. So if you or your client would like a text amendment, you can follow that process as set out. And I think it's chapter 22 or 20 in our land use ordinance. And you can follow those channels to request an initiation of a text amendment. And you can forward that information to staff or the city manager.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Okay, administrator's report.
Okay. All right. We've listed the number of major COAs that were issued since the last meeting, and the number of minor COAs also. There have been no extensions during that time period, and then I have no other items or updates.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
I've got two quick things. Also my glasses. 710 New Street, which is one of our withdrawn applications. I understand the New Bern Preservation Foundation, Matt, has indicated some interest. That is the type of property that they would be interested. And so I don't know where the applicants are. I know they're looking at options for the property, but I've asked you to share that with them if you have a chance.
So, I missed the very beginning of your statement. The New Bern Preservation Foundation has an interest in which property?
710 New Street.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then my only other comment on 305 North Avenue, since we're kind of at the end of the road at our June meeting, I'd like to suggest if they're not ready that they withdraw their application.
Mhm. Or authorize an extension to the deadline.
Just withdraw. If you can't get it done in 8 months, you're not going to get it done in 9, 10, or 11.
It's been 5. They have-
It seems like 8.
Yeah.
And of course, they could always come back when they've got it ready.
Well, and they had stated from the beginning that they have a November deadline, that contractual deadline with the chief building inspector.
Yeah.
So, to demolish the building. So, I
So
think
it's
that's,
just a suggestion.
yeah, okay, so 3 options.
And Matt, can we come back to 710? They withdrew the demolition, request for demolition. Any idea what their plans are? Because we actually do have a prevention of demolition by neglect issue here
That will have to
due
be
to the structural issues, and I'd like for us not to just, let that fall off the table, and I'd like for us to see what we can do to encourage them and provide support for them any way possible. That is a post-fire house, and like any historic structure, once it's gone, we never get it back.
I need again to share your viewpoint on that. I would have asked the very same question as the next step. This house is clearly in danger of being lost forever if nothing's going to happen to it.
Do you know, Matt, what the plan is?
Not specifically. They have said that the family is pursuing something other than demolition at this point.
Okay.
So, I don't know what that is.
Do we have the option to keep an eye on the process with that house? I think that's something that we need to consider at that point.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I also have a concern about someone living in the property currently. I don't think it's safe for someone to live there, and they mentioned that they have someone living there. So,
Yeah, one point they said yes, and then another point they said no.
okay.
We do know that a repair estimate has been generated.
That's right.
We don't know what it is, but
That's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I guess that wasn't mentioned before.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
I think we had requested that you contact
Yeah.
minimum housing, et cetera.
That's right. And so, and of course, it's already on their radar because of the previous report 2 years ago.
Right.
But it may be time to, well, first of all, I would like to just have an informal discussion with the family and see where they are at and see what we can do without you pulling out any hammers or anything yet. So,
No, their goals were good.
and one of them is, of course, to work have them work potentially with the Preservation Foundation. So we'll see if that's. I'm not sure I understood exactly what you were saying, Tripp, about Preservation Foundation and that property.
Well, I took it they'd be interested in acquiring it at the correct price.
No, okay, I got you.
But I can't,
That's right, you're not,
speak to that
Yeah.
Directly.
okay.
Had a brief conversation.
Another path that I think would be worth exploring with them is assuming it's going to stay residential, is to go down the path of a discussion about tax credits.
That's right.
That would significantly help them with any repairs, particularly structural repairs that they do.
That's a good point.
I think, the HPC as well as the Preservation Foundation are certainly willing to do what we can to support them and help them.
Yeah. Thank you, I forgot about that one for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, any other comments? Then entertain a meeting or a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Moving second, we adjourn. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.